This is the Between Shadow Society Season 2, Part 9, though not really, but it is. It is, but it isn't. Let's do a recap. It has been a little bit since we've played, so let's do a thorough recap on the threats. Right now, you just have one active threat, the Shoreditch Slugger. You currently have... It says you have... Wait, how many clues do you have on this? You have 3 clues currently on a... Well, there's 2 different questions. The first question is, what is the source of the Shoreditch Slugger's superhuman strength? And that gives you access to a custom move. The other one is, what is the Shoreditch Slugger's weakness, which allows you to resolve the threat? And those are complexity 2 and 6 respectively. So you're making good progress. This one's on a timer, by the way. 3 night phases have passed. Something happens after a certain number of night phases pass. That is, let's see how many. Well, technically it's already passed. I'll give you one more night phase to solve this one. So since we had kind of a weird session last time. This is your last chance to solve the Shoreditch Slugger. So FYI.
Wait, the first question of the Shoreditch Slugger or the whole thing?
Resolve the whole thing. Yeah, is today. So know that. And yeah, that is where that stands. Taking a look at the hunters themselves, you have got, well, Artemis Everly Gray is actually okay on conditions. Blakely and Graves are pretty loaded up on conditions. The Orphan, of course, is retired. And we have a brand new character, the Unquiet, who we need to introduce right now. So David is going to be playing the Unquiet, Cornelius Morgenstern. Let's just do the basics for now, David. Look, Vice, your moves, anything else you want to tell us about yourself, and then we'll do the little reading of the text.
Sure. So Cornelius Morgenstern is exists in Hargrave House, but you can only really see him and communicate with him in the reflective surfaces, mirrors, other glass, perhaps a particularly still pool of water around Hargrave House. Or, I imagine if somebody is around the St. Petersburg mirror, that is particularly potent. But he has, as much as you can see of him, depending on the reflective surface, ghastly chest wound, boots forever caked in mud, and heart outside the chest. And his vice is watching people cry.
You literally wear your heart on your sleeve. I love it. It's great. Watching people cry. It's a great vice.
Yeah, I think his whole thing is, somebody said I didn't have a heart. Well, I guess I proved them wrong.
Indeed. I will read the flavor text, and at this point, everybody else will listen, and they will say one thing they think can be found in your personal quarters. Now, personal quarters in the context of the Unquiet is unusual because you don't really have personal quarters. What you have are just things that are laying around the house that you know about and are significant to you, but the other hunters basically don't know the significance or ignore. And so let us read it now. You were a resident of Hargrave House many decades ago, but now, ghosty ghost, you're dead. In fact, you met an untimely end as the result of a betrayal by one of your contemporaries. The arrival of the traitor's descendant in London has awakened you, restless spirit, and anchored you to Hargrave House, which you'll haunt until you can exact your revenge by destroying said descendant. In the meantime, you find yourself drawn yet again to the dark work done by Hargrave House, and these new hunters could certainly use your help. You might even be able to summon the energy needed to temporarily slip your spectral bonds and stalk the streets of London once again. So essentially, back in the day, some member of Hargrave House betrayed you, and that person's descendant is now in the city, and you are here to end them, and so or get your revenge in some way. And so it's not too much to go on yet, but I'm curious what everyone thinks might be in laying about Hargrave House that you've overlooked all these months. Or years in the case of Miss Blakely. You might even know Miss Blakely personally, to be honest. So.
A set of medals that were awarded to somebody, perhaps even Cornelius, but have been long forgotten. Nobody remembers what they're for, but they are all together in a nice little latch box with a glass top.
I think your journal from when you were a resident of Hargrave House, your personal journal, is just in the library, totally overlooked. So.
I think a fine china vase with your own ashes in it.
There's a book, and only you know its meaning, or to you. It's a specific title that's in the rather haphazard, strange, esoteric library, and it's yours. It even has your name in it, but you put it in the back so people wouldn't know that it was yours.
Fantastic. And so I think we'll just introduce Cornelius into the group just naturally as it happens. Basically, Cornelius with you framing up scenes with people and revealing yourself to them. I think until that starts to settle in knowledge-wise, you're sort of on the outside looking in until you are fully a member of the team. And so I think I'd like to go around the table and find out what everyone's interested in doing for our day phase. And we're a little pressed on time today, and so it'll be a fairly straightforward day phase. I do want to remind you that you have a fair amount of work to do on the Shoreditch Slugger if you intend to get that done. So let us click the day phase tracker. Mr. Graves. Oh, I have to introduce a threat too. Ooh.
Yeah. But I will say, I think it sounds delightful if somebody wants to have a vulnerable scene where they think they're crying to a mirror.
I think at least at this point, Artemis is going to be doing
good.
something like that, but that's whatever. Yeah.
That'd be really good. We have a lot going on with a new character. I'm going to hold off on introducing a new threat. We'll just, who did we just lose? Oh no, we didn't lose.
We briefly lost Rob, but he's back.
Yeah.
No new threat today. Just the Shoreditch Slugger and essentially meeting Cornelius. So,
Mr. Graves, you up for some flogging today?
I don't see why not. Yes.
That's always the best answer. So yeah, I think I'll do I'm in the 3 condition club, so I think I'm going to try and get rid of some of these.
sounds good. So do we want to have a scene with Miss Blakely and Mr. Graves? Is that what we're doing?
I think so, yeah.
Frame it up, Miss Blakely, since it's your vice.
It's not that long after everybody gets back from the fragrant void. I assume Theodora Brathwaite, who is back to life now, is gone off to do something.
No, she's moved in.
Oh, she's moved in.
She's
Lovely.
moved in. Yeah.
That's great news for Blakely. She loves that.
She actually has a because she's always planning, she actually has some documents that prove that she's entitled to stay in certain rooms within Hargrave House.
Of course she fucking does.
Just until
love
she gets
her
things
so
sorted out.
much.
Yeah, it's been a few years, just until she gets things sorted out.
Oh, I love her. I'm so glad she's back. I mean, Blakely's not, but Amanda is. So yes, I think that. Blakely's a little bit on the frantic. Isn't quite the word I'm looking for here, but she is not at her most composed, and she's not weak enough to be crying into a mirror. So instead, she goes into her room of implements, interesting implements, looking around, and she's got this sort of really nervous energy. She grabs one off the wall, a particularly frightening looking one with the leather strips are tied in little knots to look like almost like barbed wire. And she goes sauntering through Hargrave House looking for a willing victim, and of course comes upon Mr. Graves. Ah, Graves. Just the person I was looking for.
Miss Blakely, what can I do for you?
And she's waving the flogger as she talks. Well, it's been a little bit of a curious few days. I'm sure you agree.
I confess I rather miss my astral form.
Ah, yes, the bird thing. You did seem quite at home in that. Of course, my astral form is just my regular form. Perhaps you would do me a favor. I'm sure you will, of course. I can't imagine why you would even say no. And she's she's looking, actually, she doesn't normally ask permission for things. She is trying to ask permission in a way for this. Would you please, and she's waving the flogger around a bit more, join me in my rooms, or perhaps, in the whatever room you might be comfortable in, I assume. I suppose it doesn't matter what room it's in. And, well, I do have some energy to work out, so to speak.
Sounds intriguing, Miss Blakely.
How well do you do with pain?
Payne and I are old friends.
Ah,
you might say.
Fantastic. Well, shall we go visit your old friend? Perhaps.
It could be a bracing experience, I suppose.
And I think she takes the handle of the flogger and kind of shoves it up into the bottom of Graves's jaw, pushing really hard. I hope you understand that I don't use safe words.
Oh, Miss Blakely, if it comes to that, I have many solutions I could apply.
Fantastic. Well, yes, I believe that this will be just what I need.
Okay. I think that we'll pick up that scene in a bit, maybe the aftermath of said scene, or if you all want to role play it, I suppose you can, but we'll fade to black, we'll say, for now. Tell us about this mirror, Cornelius, and that Artemis Everly Gray will be wandering upon.
I don't know. Is Artemis, do you suppose this is in your personal quarters, or are you somewhere else in the house?
I think she's in her gallery. I think in the gallery that there are the pictures that she's left up, but she's covered over with some of the targets. All of the targets have at least 3 knives in them, or arrows. And somewhere in the corner, there's a mirror. It's not a big mirror. It's rather plain, actually. I guess it's to check on any facial scarring or something. And she'll go by it
How big do
occasionally.
you think it is?
Probably no bigger than down to the breast, down to the breast size. So
Okay, so a decent sized mirror. Okay.
yeah. And she'll pass it occasionally after rendering the targets, all of them, almost useless. And then she will go in front of the mirror, take down her cowl, and she's looking pretty haggard. She's hasn't slept very well. I mean, she doesn't sleep normally anyway, but even more so since some left. And she's contemplating a plan, and just looking at herself in the mirror, she places both hands on either side and says, "Well, you found yourself in a bit of a pickle, haven't you, my dear? I think it's time that we shed our kindness and go through with the plan." What the devil?
People used to say I was a bit heartless myself, always ready to go through with the plan.
Who's there?
Oh, I suppose you don't know who I am. I suppose I don't know how long it's been.
Where are you? Where do you talk to me from?
And the mirror starts to resolve into darkness as two piercing eyes peer out from it.
What is your name, spirit?
Cornelius Morgenstern, at your service. Artemis Everly Grey.
Have you been here the whole time?
I have been here a very long time. But please continue. Your tears, they soothe me.
What do you know of tears, spirit? Probably a long, long time since you've cried last. And you can see that like one tear is like struggling to get out because she's been trying to hold it in.
And the eyes are just like fixed and piercing on it, unblinking, waiting for it to fall.
Do you know what happiness is, spirit? Cornelius. Do you remember?
Happiness is a damp emotion, an absolute trifle of a thing. Now, grief. Grief that comes from betrayal, grief that comes from extreme loss. That is a poignant, poignant thing.
What if you remember failure that you've caused yourself?
Yes, failure, a self-betrayal.
And then she closes her eyes and you can see tears like falling down her cheeks.
And the eyes relax.
Well, due to my failures, I think I'm going to be embarking on a little plan to try and make it right. But knowing me, I will, to be crude, fuck it up, and I relish the idea.
The half-lidded eyes bob up and down like they're agreeing, like there's a nodding head that you can't see. Oh, yes, that sounds like an excellent plan, Artemis Everly Grey.
Do you only live in the
Perhaps.
mirror?
No, I am here all in the house now. I used to only be in small things, but I am growing strength again. Perhaps I can assist you.
That sounds absolutely wonderful. And I will tell you what you can do for me if you choose. I am going to take a visit to our lovely guest, or I guess fellow inhabitant, Theodora Brathwaite. It wouldn't be nice to have other eyes on the conversation? Do you just need mirrors?
Anything that reflects will do.
Excellent. I have a hand mirror that I can bring with me. Again, another set of eyes and ears on the conversation would be extremely helpful. What else can I do for you in return?
You have done more than enough for me today, Artemis Everly Grey.
You make
Like
it
it.
sound so simple.
It feels like a cut. Do you want to stumble on a clue, Cornelius?
Yeah, that sounds great. Something about the Shoreditch Slugger, I suppose.
Yeah, I think. Well, you get to define it, so yeah.
Yeah, I'll think about it for a minute.
Think on it for a moment. And Ms. Everly Gray, what conditions do you think you cleared, or what condition?
I didn't actually have any conditions to clear, but
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
I really wanted to bring up the fact that I did want to visit up Theodora.
Yeah, but we can definitely do that. I'd like to pick up with Graves and Blakely, and I think, I mean, Graves, it sounds like you were letting Miss Blakely flog you, which I think is interesting. I am curious about, I want to explore the idea of pain and the idea that pain somehow either connects you more to the dark entities that haunt you or somehow allows you to pass more freely through the veil, or maybe it even obstructs you from the veil. I don't know. But I am curious, Mr. Graves, as you are taking this, as you're receiving this pain, I am curious like how it affects you. Maybe this is what implicates your conditions, but also I'm curious just like what is the role of pain in your supernatural workings?
I think much like the absinthe, Graves finds it as a way to quiet the noises he hears from the other side, this constant babble of the entity swirling around him, who want things from him, who want him to, they're goading him, they're encouraging him, they're mocking him, they want to push him in certain directions, and this is one of the ways he can quiet that noise by focusing on the intensity of the physical experience, even though it's an unpleasant one. It brings him a kind of mental peace.
I suppose then it probably clears the condition related to Lord Cadwallader, right?
That seems reasonable. The other condition I have is a permanent one, so.
Indeed. Miss Blakely, I'm curious, from your vantage point, you have probably never engaged in this way with a person who is so surrounded by dark forces. I'm curious how those dark forces affect you as well.
Blakely views people experiencing pain for her as, I mean, of course, it's a power dynamic. and she relishes in that power. But pain specifically, she sees when people experience that more as a gift to her. She likes gifts. And having this situation with Graves specifically being so connected to all of these dark forces, it's almost like a mastery over the dark forces from her perspective. All these things that she feels that are completely out of her control, well, she's controlling an aspect of that right now. And I think very much in particular, the marked by the demon of Kilburn Abbey would be cleared by this, because that is something that's really been, no pun intended, haunting her.
I love it.
Maybe a little bit pun intended.
I love it. It's your advice. Do you want to stumble on a clue as well?
If Rob has a good question to ask Blakely, anything in particular, you're welcome to, but I think a clue would also be good. So I'm making Rob decide.
I could ask a question.
Sure.
Go for it. Is this like at the during the bloody pillow talk or what?
Yeah, very possibly.
I think
So
there's
Miss
definitely
Blakely?
blood involved and lots of pillows.
Oh yeah. I kind of imagine after the fact that Graves has his ever-present cigarette now, but he's put his white shirt back on, and now it's just kind of soaked with. He's put it on to absorb the blood that's on his back. So Miss Blakely, tell me, you seem to have a little connection with the other side, almost as if you're destined not to go there. How long have you been walking this earth?
Blakely.
You have to answer truthfully.
Blakely laughs and takes the cigarette from Graves, takes a drag on it. I don't quite remember. It seems like it's been forever, but also maybe not. Not long enough that I'm bored with existence, but certainly longer than I should be. Hundreds of years, maybe. I've seen many a monarchy fall. Not particularly interested in any of that.
I imagine there are always new entertainments or
Well, the entertainments do tend to stay the same, actually. That's one thing that's interesting about life. Things don't change that much. Not as much as you would expect. I think, well, this connection to this other side that you speak of. I often wonder if I am forever disconnected from it. I think, I know of people who are longer lived than I am. If you can't die, are you really alive? I don't know. I don't even know if I can't die. Never tried. Never been particularly interested in trying.
I can't imagine why you would want to. But it's interesting what you say for all our modern ages talk of progress, that things do have an eternal quality to them.
Well, you know what they say, there's only two things sure in life, death and taxes, and I don't have to deal with either. So
that feels like a good cut. I like it. I was reading the Shoreditch Slugger a little more closely. You have 2 more night phases, so just FYI. There is a thing that happens at the end of this one, though. So
The clue we stumble upon
Yeah.
before Everly Gray leaves, the face reasserts itself in the mirror. Wait,
What
you
is
have
it?
encountered someone. I can feel its presence upon you. You and the others who are around here, permeating. A
Indeed.
fighter.
Huh.
A fighter who has known no failure. Whether from lack of trying or from only doing things they are skilled at, this fighter has known no failure. I think that's the clue. Shoreditch Slugger has known no failure.
Fantastic. Miss Everly Gray, are you going to go up to Theodora's room?
I am.
I think as you approach the door from the outside, you hear the sound of something being smashed. And then Theodora. Yes, right there. One more good whack should do it. What do you do?
I am going to knock. Lady Brathwaite.
Yes, yes, come in.
And she opens the door. And what does she see?
She has a worker there in her room, and the worker is currently smashing open a wall with a big, large hammer. And he gives it one good whack, and you can see the last bits of masonry crumbling away. And she says, there we are. Look at this, Miss Everly Gray. And she's actually dressed down in like overalls and a white shirt. She says, and her hair is kind of like done up in a very, just kind of like a pony. And she says, look at this. These old houses have space between the walls. And indeed, there's a little gap inside. She says, this is just big enough for, well, someone to crawl around in here, maybe even lay down and sleep or hide if they needed to. How can I help you, Miss Everly Gray?
Before she does possibly enter in, she will take the deepest curtsy that she knows from being presented to the Queen and says, Your Majesty.
She looks at you askance and she says, this feels like a setup. What are you getting at, Miss Everly Gray?
Oh, I had just heard about your wonderful plan. Before you came back from the dead void something, and you made to be queen. So I wanted to at least congratulate the effort.
Yes, yes. Do you want tea or something?
If I do, I would watch you make it.
Well, sadly, poor Elmore is no longer with us.
Yes.
He was, well, he had many enthusiasms, poisoning people among them. Sadly, I myself have not had the chance to procure anything, a weapon of that sort, yet. And she does indeed have some tea, have a tea set out, and she pours you a couple of cups and does a little drop of honey and all that business. And she tells the worker, she's like, thank you. I'll have you back probably, well, soon enough to wall it back up. And she sends the worker away. Please sit. And she invites you to sit down.
As she comes in, she's got something behind her, and from the curtsy, she will bring her hands almost in, kind of humble mode, but she is actually bringing out her little hand mirror and setting it up to sit behind her as she sits down.
She says, I'm so happy that I didn't have to engage the services of a solicitor to enforce my rights to the room here in Hargrave House.
I don't see why. I mean, this drafty old place reminds me of, well, home. So there's plenty of room. So
Plenty of room, that's what I say. How are you today, Miss Everly Gray?
that's a very ironic thing to ask. Can I tell you about a dream I've had? And she
You
leans forward.
must.
I know, it's quite boring, I'm sure.
In fact, I was always taught there are certain things one simply does not bring up in polite conversation because they are, in fact, dreadfully boring. For example, root talk, how did you get here? Incredibly boring. But also dreams.
Even if they involve you.
Well, that's more interesting, I suppose. Go ahead, regale me, Miss Everly Gray.
I'm not a painter, by any means. But I have had a recurring dream since coming back from this void that we found ourselves from. And I seem to be painting an eye, or a cheek, or the curl of a golden hair. And then, as I step back from it, it starts to look like Miss Blakely. But when I look around this place that this painting resides, it seems to be some sort of cathedral. And strangely enough, there seems to be a stained glass window with your portrait in it very prominently. What do you suppose this means?
Yes, I may know in more detail of what you speak, though, in truth, I think Miss Blakely thinks I know more than I do. I am led to believe that there is somewhere in the city, perhaps beneath the city, a place, a phylactery of sorts that keeps Miss Blakely bound here. I tried to locate it for a time. I could feel it responding to my wishes from time to time. I was never able to locate it, however. I thought that I might destroy it and thereby destroy her. But I've actually changed my mind. I quite like the idea of Miss Blakely living forever.
May I ask why?
She looks over at that hole in the wall. Oh, she's such wonderful company.
Interesting. Are you aware that your old friend is, well, possibly causing havoc in London?
Oh, which old friend is that?
Ah, yes. Vice Admiral Flagg.
Oh, yes. He is a bit of a nihilist at the end of the day, isn't he?
Yes, absolutely. He's asked me to work for him.
Oh, well, I would reject that offer out of hand, Miss Everly Gray.
Really, why?
Because he is perfectly mad.
Understood. But do you think he is capable of carrying out his threat?
Here she sort of looks. She ponders it. She says, yes, I do. But I think he is blind to other repercussions that will flow from his actions.
Sounds perfectly like a madman, absolutely.
In any case, he will not be dissuaded from it. So
I didn't think he would be. I had actually asked him if he'd be willing to consider expanding upon his threat to other realms.
Well, I suppose that's something for Hargrave House to sort out. Oh,
Sure.
does that mean I'm a member of Hargrave House now, incidentally?
You could be.
Imagine me, a hunter of Hargrave House.
Would you want to, though?
No. I consider myself more of a... She looks at the wall again. A landlady. And...
Could I pull a want of privilege in this conversation? Just out of curiosity.
I need to be reminded what that is. Hold on. Oh, when you leverage your family's name in order to gain information or assistance. Yeah, go for it.
So, hold on.
And also, I'll give you an information move as well while you're observing the scene, Cornelius.
Yeah. So,
I had a way to play into that I was
Let's do
picking
that
my
now.
moment for.
So what were you thinking?
I think when she jokes about her being a landlady and looking at the hole in the wall, and all of the meaning is just so clear that there's just a great booming laugh from the room, and then all of the drawers and everything fly open, and Cornelius is just going to have a look.
Interesting. Theodora will say, the ghosts of Hargrave House, no doubt.
Of much and of plenty, I'm sure. This drafty rat hole is ripe for such a thing, isn't it?
So many things haunting the walls of the place, really.
It's just like in the Everly Gray's estate. I mean, you had, well, shall we say you had your own, so you understand that. I'm sure you had some ghosts rattling around in your place as well.
Yes, there were. There at the end, there were quite a few things rattling around Brathwaite Hall, Miss Everly Gray.
I think I found some of them, or at least one of them. We were brought there by your Miss Blakely. Wasting time, as usual. So, anyway.
She has so much time.
She does.
Cornelius, roll information to with sensitivity, maybe? I don't know.
Sensitivity sounds... Yeah. 8. Has
to be for the Shoreditch Slugger, which implies a connection between Theodora and the Shoreditch Slugger.
I mean, I think the connection might be as simple as she denies being a member of Hargrave House, but I think she's taking an interest in anything that's going on
that you're doing. Yeah, exactly. I think that's very interesting indeed. She has in one of the drawers an advertisement for Dr. Rogan's botanical elixir for men, promising to cure impotence, increase virility, and build muscle.
Lovely.
Why would she have such a thing? I don't know.
For in want of privilege, I just want to mention to her that, I mean, if you'd like help in restoring your old estate, I'm sure that I can ask some of my relations, the Everly Grays that are still on the estate, to be able to pitch in and see what they can do for you.
Oh, I like it. Go for it. Yeah, roll presence.
Oh God, I don't even remember what my presence score is, if I have anything. Okay, good. That is a 10.
Nice. On a 10 plus, the person has a history with your family and will help you for the remainder of the phase. Any information they give can be in the form of a clue at the keeper's discretion. Any roles associated with actions they help you with are taken advantage. Okay. We'll come back to this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a 5-minute break.
Yep.
Let's do another little round of day phase scenes. Or at least for Miss Blakely and Mr. Graves. So Mr. Graves, what do you have in mind after the scene with Miss Blakely?
Well, I feel like we need to go and do some investigating here. I wonder if Blakely's already been to see the fighters, right? So maybe
I don't think I have.
that could be an interesting.
Maybe
Blakely,
go to the venue before, where it's going to be before it actually happens. That could be interesting.
Oh, but they only fight at night. Yeah, but I
We
wonder
can
if
also
they could
go
be
and talk
training
to...
there. Or...
Well, that's what I was saying. Yeah, the venue might still be like a place you can go to, even if there's not like people there yet, you know.
Yeah, I'm just thinking Graves could invite Blakely there with the prospect of witnessing some physical punishment.
Not really a voyeur, so to speak, but I suppose it could be entertaining.
Indeed. The venue, let's see, you have so far been to
We were only at that one fight, right? Oh, and then the church, yeah. The abandoned church.
Yeah,
So
there
we'd
was
be
the
at
abandoned church, and then there was another one, I thought.
Artemis didn't get a chance to go to that one because she was waylaid by Flag.
Right. Yeah, so you've just been to the church then.
Yeah.
This next meeting is going to be in a newly dug tube tunnel. So not yet in use. During these years, they would have been digging the tunnels. And you can go there in the day. It's underground, and so I think it counts as night if it ends up getting snarly. But we can fast forward to that. And because your contact, who is, what's his name again?
Bram Fuller.
Yeah. Tells you where it's going to be. So, no, Graves and some fought at the cathedral, the abandoned cathedral.
Nobody has fought what's his face yet.
No one's even seen the slugger. We
Pettigrew.
haven't seen the slugger yet. And
I'm not worried about the slugger. I was thinking someone's got to beat up Pettigrew.
yeah, no one's fought Pettigrew yet either. Yeah. So you are there. I think that you have to. I think getting entrance to the tube tunnel is maybe not so difficult. You take I think there's probably like some makeshift scaffolding and stairs that go down to the dig site. And this is where you're led to believe the fight's going to be tonight. And right now it's pretty empty. There's really no one around. Just dark and empty.
Are there any workers around at all?
Maybe like one. Maybe just like one, like kind of like sitting there, like eating his lunch or something. Cornish pasty. I'm led to believe that's what working class British men eat while they're working. So,
yeah, it's portable lunch. Yeah.
I would like
guess
to use
Greg's
Giveth on that guy.
Oh, make him a worshiper.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. When he sees you, how does he, I assume not so subtly, debase himself before you?
Oh, I think this guy full on coughing fit spits out his food that he was trying to eat, and then like down on his hands and knees crying into the dirt.
You really have quite an effect on people, Miss Blakely.
Yes, well, one of my many charms. You construction person.
He looks up at you and he says, "My lady, never could I have imagined that I would ever be able to lay eyes upon you in person, and yet here you are."
Yes, well.
What have I done to deserve this?
Oh, nothing. You're just very special, and of course, for all of my most special followers, I do have extra requests of them, as I'm sure you would understand.
Yes, my lady. What would you have of me?
I would have you tell me everything you know about this location here, this hole or whatnot, and then just make sure nobody comes and bothers us.
Oh yeah, good note in the chat. That Graves' leg is injured, right? Set.
Yeah, I think Graves is actually on. Yeah, he has a cast on and it's like on crutches.
Yeah. So even getting down there could have been kind of tricky, right?
And also carry my friend around, please.
Yeah, he'll like get underneath you to like hold you up, and
Oh, that's really quite unnecessary, but perhaps you can help me with any stairs.
he says, yes, of course. Well, what do you want to know about this place?
Specifically, I want to know about the fight that's happening tonight.
And he gets a little, kind of like, he's like, well, my lady, the first rule of Bout Club is you don't talk about Bout Club.
Yes, but I'm Miss Blakely. You can talk about it to me.
Per the move, you can give him something from your personal quarters, and he will give you
I think I'm going to
everything.
pull out the raven feather that we had from the Tower of London and sort of just drag it down his face.
Oh, nice. He will actually snatch it from you and say, yes, well, I know that I'll just give you a clue. He says, I don't know much about the fights, but I do know that, well, and he sort of, he says, I was told to prepare something special. And he takes you across the way, and he has put up, he's kind of blocked off into part of the tunnel with makeshift screens that are just heavy tarps that have been strung up. And you see behind it a mattress and some pillows. And he says, all sorts of things happen at Bout Club that we're not supposed to talk about.
May I ask who told you to set this up?
He says, well, that would be the Mr. Yardley, the sort of barker, the MC of the show.
And what's the purpose of this?
It's like, well, I think that some of the men like to exercise their carnal desires in more ways than just striking each other, sir.
I see.
Well, Bout Club is starting to sound a little bit more interesting than just a little fight group.
Indeed. That is actually your clue. But there's more to it than just fighting. And that feels like a good place to stop there with that scene as far as that goes. We'll pick up with Miss Everly Gray and the you got a complication result on your information move. I don't think it needs to be anything. I don't think it needs to be any more.
Mark some energy track or something.
No. I don't think it needs to be any more complicated than just that. Like, clearly, Theodora is paying attention to what you're all doing, right? So, and Miss Everly Gray, I will let your move carry over to the next day phase, since we're at the end of this day phase. You'll be able to call on Theodora's help next time, just to get maximum use out of it.
Okay.
Just make a note for yourself. And Theodora says, well, thank you so much for stopping by, Ms. Everly Gray. This has been invigorating. I'm already so invigorated already, and now I'm extra invigorated. When you get a chance, do tell Miss Blakely I would like for her to come up and have tea soon as well.
Certainly.
Preferably in the middle of the night when no one else is around.
Would you be showing her your new addition?
intimately.
Sounds absolutely scrumptious.
Booming laugh happens again.
Very good. I think that will conclude the day phase. Did everybody get the various clues written down? Ad for Yield Viagra. It is specifically Dr. Rogan's botanical elixir for men.
Question. It looks like there's 2 clues, 2 repeated.
Are there?
Yeah. I mean, am I reading that wrong? I mean,
No, smell of honey is in there twice.
Yeah, it shouldn't be in there twice. It should only be in there once. Okay. I love it. Let's go to the dusk.
I do owe a Mask of Tragedy from last time.
Oh, give it to us now. Well, actually, there's a part of the phase where we do all that, so we can save it for that. I do want to talk about made flesh. Do you intend to be made flesh tonight, Mr. Morgenstern?
Oh, yes, of course. That sounds wonderful.
Let's read the move so people know what's going on here. So the Unquiet has this move that they basically have like an energy tracker, and they can spend this energy to manifest in the world temporarily. And one of the ways they can do that is with a move called Made Flesh. During the dusk phase, you can mark 2 boxes on the track to pull together enough ectoplasm to appear as a solid living person dressed in clothes from the period you died in, along with any personal quarters items you wish. While in this form, you can leave Hargrave House, touch things, be touched, communicate normally, and suffer injury. This physical manifestation ends during the dawn phase. If you are killed in this form, you immediately return to Hargrave House as a ghost and take the condition shaken. So you'll be manifesting. Love that. And now let's talk about Hargrave House. Let's do... I feel like we did the kitchen last time. Did we not do the kitchen last time? I thought we did.
We did.
Yeah, I thought so. Let's do the gardens. Being in the gardens is like being totally disconnected from the stink and grime of London. Is that reassuring to you, or does it make you feel uncomfortable, and why?
Regardless of what Blakely may have thought about the gardens before, because I don't remember how I answered that one before, the gardens these days, they feel reassuring. It's outside, fresh air, not stale, recycled air that makes her feel suffocated and claustrophobic. Outside in the gardens, the smell of the soil, the smell of the plants, it makes her feel like she is far away from any dusty entombment.
Cornelius Morgenstern cannot manifest in the gardens because I think it is quite literally another place.
I think Graves finds it uncomfortably quiet there. There's nothing to drown out the sounds in his head, the voices of the entities. It's the peace and quiet is troubling to him because it allows them in.
For Artemis, it's almost reassuring. The trees aren't as tall here. Not as much opportunity to do tree dancing or practice out here. But I mean, it is still reminiscent of hunting on grounds, but I mean, just a little bit more contemplative, more of a place to go when she needs a little bit of a reprieve from the vastness of the house, the darkness of the house. And she can still hold on to maybe a tiny moment where she was giving some an embrace before he left.
Thank you. Does anyone want to answer a question?
We could probably answer the first question because that's only a
2.
complexity 2.
Yeah. Says, what is the source of the Shoreditch Slugger's superhuman strength? The Slugger's power cannot be taken away completely, but the hunters can steal some of it for themselves. Subvert this source for your own use through thievery or ritual, and gain access to the move Eternal Man, which does some different things there. So,
I feel like the honey has something to do with it. Magic bees?
That could tie into the botanical elixir, but then that also ties into the celibacy thing, I feel like.
Which all ties into magic bees. I'm really like legit. It sounds like I'm being silly. I'm pitching special bees that have come in contact with something like the fragrant void, with some sort of supernatural thing, that the honey sourced from these bees is being used in the botanical elixir for men, which is why that's being. Or that is why, and that's going to be popular with the Bout Club members, I am certain. The Slugger is not, I can't imagine Slugger is taking the botanical elixir for men because of the vow of celibacy, but using a tincture or maybe getting stung by these bees. I'm not really sure, but I'm thinking
I wonder if
possessed
there's a
bees.
tie in there, given that like worker bees or soldier bees are celibate, right?
That's true. Yeah.
They don't get to mate with the queen. They are celibate for life and just die, give their life to the queen. Maybe there's a connection.
Maybe the Slugger is giving his life to the queen, and in return he gets these powers.
Right, yeah, his power is enhanced by not indulging in the pleasures of the flesh.
Yeah, I don't know how many clues we want to commit to this.
Right.
I'd say 3 sounds about okay. That's a +1, but not using too many. We can spend the night collecting lots of clues as best we can.
Yeah, so I think that probably is 3 right there: the celibacy, the smell of honey, and the botanical elixir. Right.
So we're saying that the source is special bees that are
Special
somewhere.
bees. Yeah.
Interesting. Where are these bees? What like,
I think it's
who has them?
Well, yeah, I think it's just the botanical elixir.
Like Dr. Rogan has the bees.
Like Dr. Rogan has no idea what he has. He's just making an elixir, and he just happens to have stumbled upon these eternal, like these eternal creatures that like go from field to field, but like some of his stuff happens to stray into the right fields. So it's probably hit and miss if you've got the good botanical elixir or not. That's why it's like so notoriously unreliable. But I think the Slugger has figured out a way to smell if the honey of the eternal bees is in the elixir, so he always can take the correct one, and he doesn't use it for anything but his own strength and power, whereas other people might spend it more foolishly in his eyes.
Oh, I see. So maybe, I mean, I think it would be interesting if the elixir it works the same for everyone, but the Slugger knows that what makes it powerful is the celibacy. It's the swearing off drink. It's the swearing off sex. It's the swearing off pleasures of the flesh that makes it potent.
He's not wasting it on.
He's not wasting it on like,
Yeah.
whatever the hell the rest of them are doing. Yeah, being
I
real
think-
men.
I think
of
too, like
concept.
the smell of honey, he's got access to the source. This honey versus the elixir has the honey in the elixir. and it's mixed with other things, so it's not going to be as potent anyway.
So he knows where the
He's
source
mainlining
these
it.
hives are.
Yeah.
These hives are. Okay, that's interesting. I think that's really interesting. I think it's a super interesting approach. It means in order to do the custom move, you would always have to kind of take a trip out to the hives, right?
Or just get some of this elixir and, you know, not use it foolishly.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. I'm into it. Does anybody have any other thoughts or additions? Super bees it is. Who wants to roll +1? Bees.
I think Amanda came up with the theory. Let's have her roll the
I
dice.
just want to celebrate the bees.
Because they are now officially fish.
What's a +1? We're at a
I
13.
get that reference.
13.
Boxcars.
Very nice, very nice. Let's read the move because I think something happens on a 12 plus. So it's correct, and the opportunity can be pursued, which means you can get the custom move. On a 12 plus, the mastermind will reveal themselves while the hunters are pursuing the opportunity. Well, so obviously, just picking up on what happened in the last scene, Theodora knows already, and she's already like on it, right? Good.
So is she the mastermind again? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, that's true. She's not the mastermind, is she? But Flag knows, and that's problematic.
He's been boxing. It's just not at Bout Club. So
It's not about club, right?
it makes sense.
He knows people, right? I'm sure he's connected to this world, right?
He could have known the whole time.
He's
Yeah.
probably been feeding this elixir to all of his little soldier guys.
Yeah, who knows? If you ever have to face them, though, which could happen because you're at 10 mastermind clues, they might be super powered. Does that make Flag the queen bee? I don't know.
Let's not to dwell on it too much.
Let's not dwell on it. Yeah. Okay, good. I love it. That is, let's mark our clues. Okay, good. So the custom move is Eternal Man. You command some of the Shoreditch Slugger's strength. When the keeper narrates a hunter's death as the result of a missed roll, you may mark a box below, and there's 3 boxes, and say how, through sheer brute strength and force of will, and perhaps machinations of the occult, you actually survive. There's only 3 shots here on this. This assumes that at some point you get your hands on some of the honey, right?
Keep Blakely around a little longer.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Let's keep going. What is everyone doing tonight? Ms. Everly Gray. Also, Ms. Everly Gray, I would like for you to mark 2 O's on your hunt for the last day phase because of the way you dealt with both Cornelius and the way you dealt with Theodora.
Can't find it. Okay, 7. We're up to 14 marks on the hunt. 6 more, and the beast comes out to play. Well, conceivably, if I'm following like a good little hunter, I will go to Bout Club and then see about fighting. But if Flag comes by or something else happens, bring it on.
Indeed. A night at Bout Club. Mr. Graves?
I think Mr. Graves would like to employ his new power of a beacon in the dark to see if he can discover where the slugger is. See if he can find the slugger.
Intriguing. Ms. Blakely?
Just gonna go to this Bout Club and convince people to tell me what they know about the slugger.
And Cornelius with your new form.
I think I'll just show up out of one of the rooms and like try and escort Miss Blakely to the Bout Club.
We definitely have to have that scene. Okay, good. I love it. Janice Mass prompts. Take it away, Ms. Everly Gray.
Let's see. Sorry, just making sure. All right. So it's the Mask of Tragedy. Narrate a time something awful happened as a direct result of your failure. Being cocky and confident, and possibly drunk, Artemis decided to make an appeal to the Fey House of Summer, and demanded an audience with their queens regarding the chosen curse. She talked about Talil's legendary bravery, protecting all their peoples, and the years of dedication of the Greys before and after the transgression of the one Everly. The queens heard her entreaties, then one by one responded. The youngest, with copper hair gathered in a bun and tendrils, dressed in flowers and ferns, said, "You humans, you think this is all about you. Perhaps this is a long-term game that we play to ensure the safety of our people and yours. It is mere accident that the cosmic twin condition has been able to perpetuate for this long." The distant motherly one, with golden curls cascading down her white gossamer back, stands. "Besides, what you fail to understand is that this curse, as you call it, is our compounded blessing. There always must be hunters, specially trained to fight monstrosities in the world. And what better way than to have a monster randomly within the ranks, within every generation?" The last queen, the oldest, yet the most beautiful of them all, rises, the silver waterfall of her hair over one shoulder, and the purple velvet of her dress darkening into a starry night. "None of us can remove this from your family, even if we wanted to. This blessing is recognized by all of our lineage, and remains so as we all live." She approached Artemis, sweeping a twilight arm in front of Artemis's eyes. "And for your presumption, a gift." In a haze, Artemis returned to her family estate, talking to Andromeda, the guards setting the wards, and her brother being secured by his favorite gameskeeper Samuel the night of the change. But later, in horror, Artemis remembers as she left her brother's cell, her limbs moving against her will while seeing twilight stars, disturbing a line of the inner ward and smudging the circle of the outer guard runes.
Fabulous, thank you. And with that, the unseen. Do I understand correctly that the blue ones are the ones we have not done yet?
Yes, that's correct.
Good. We shall do the prison hulk at Woolwich, which is this last one in the second row. Moored near the industrial town of Woolwich are a number of hollowed-out old warships that serve as temporary prisons for convicts set to be transferred to Australia and other penal colonies. One of these prison hulks is Bellerophon, now called Captivity. A too-young cook is walking above and below deck, passing out the evening's portion of hard biscuits and pea soup. Paint the scenes for everyone. Prompt 2 will be for Rob. Prompt 3 will be for David. Prompt 4 will be for Amanda. Let's take 5. The night phase, the prison hulk at Woolwich. Everyone, how do we know the captivity is a nightmare of filth and desperation?
With the bilge water that they've either pumped or just splashed onto the decks or in the holds, that's how they're cleaning up any human waste and grime. They're not really scrubbing, they're just splashing.
Everyone
There's a-
talks about the lucky ones. It began ironically, but has become unironic as time has passed. The lucky ones are the ones that they wrap up in canvas and toss into the ocean because they have already expired.
And there's kind of a slick of just greasy, foul water surrounding the boat on all sides where it's moored. You wouldn't want to get too close to it, and the smell is, goes further than it looks like it ought to.
Everybody except the higher up officers, everyone has this deep hacking cough, and the prisoners are always sick. It seems like nobody ever gets better.
Cornelius Morgenstern reveals himself to Miss Blakely for the first time, and to Miss Everly Gray. I think Mr. Graves has already gone on his hobble about. Let's just have the scene with Cornelius meeting everyone in the foyer, ready to go to the tunnel to Bout Club.
Cornelius comes out of an unoccupied room. His fashion looks a little too dated, but is otherwise top-notch. Top hat, white shirt collar, coat that is tailored, a walking stick. And he wraps the walking stick on Miss Blakely's door.
Blakely throws open the door, ready to yell at Artemis, because that's who she assumes is rapping on her door,
Right.
and does a literal double take.
And he
Morgenstern.
takes off his hat and gives a bow, puts on tightens his gloves. Miss Blakely, what a pleasure.
But why is everybody coming back from the dead?
Wasn't it you that accused me of never having a heart?
And
well, they proved that theory wrong in the end. I don't know if you were there for that. I don't recall. I was a bit in and out, as it were. Nevertheless, though I have a heart, I'm back.
Well, you were always very tenacious. I suppose I shouldn't be that surprised.
Would you care to accompany me? I have heard tale of someone in this city who's never known failure. I desperately hope to see the day this one does fail.
Well, I suppose that's where I'm headed anyway. And as we walk, you could possibly explain to me how it is you're standing here.
If I could explain that, I wouldn't be standing here.
That makes no sense to me.
Shall we? He offers his arm.
Well, I suppose. She takes it.
It's cool to the touch.
Miss Everly Gray, where are you at?
I think by this time, she's already downstairs. Well, actually, hold on, let me think a minute. No, nobody's actually answered the knocked on the door, so that's good. She's actually in the foyer. She's not outside. But
come down the stairs and you can recognize the piercing eyes, but all the rest is new, including the voice, which seems more lively and chipper, and all kinds of manner of less sinister. Ah, Miss Everly Gray. Out for an evening on the town? To see the fights, perhaps?
Yes? Do I know you, sir?
Don't you recognize me? The piercing eyes pierce deeper still.
Huh. Ah, so you do have a form after all. Or is this temporary?
Everly Gray, please, may I make the introduction? This is my old colleague, Mr. Cornelius Morgenstern. Morgenstern, this is Everly Gray. She's one of the people here.
We have had the pleasure of meeting once before.
Oh, I'm so happy you've deemed it a pleasure, sir. And she takes a little bow.
Indeed.
Well, if you've already
It
met,
was
we
a
do not have
pleasure.
to drag this out.
No. Shall we away?
I'd be
Indeed,
interested in
indeed.
seeing if you actually have anything interesting to say about our mutual acquaintance while we're in the cab.
Perhaps we will.
Mr. Graves, how is getting about London with your leg in its current state?
Yeah, I think Graves is frustrated by, it's not been long since he was injured, but the lack of mobility frustrates him, and he's just on his crutches hobbling about the streets. You can hear him coming from a mile away, and obviously he can't move very fast, but he's determined to recover quickly. So he's trying to get some exercise, but at the same time just stretching his consciousness out through the city to see, the Slugger should be on their way to the fight location. So
Indeed.
let's see if we can find him.
Tell me a little bit about the neighborhood you find yourself in right now.
I think it's kind of residential. It's lower, say it's not poor, but it's below the standards of certainly where Hargrave House is located. Smaller terraced houses, but they're at least 2-story, and there are occasionally on a corner there might be a little shop, all boarded up and closed at this time of night, and the only light and sound is from equally regularly spaced among the houses are pubs with throngs of regulars, not exactly revelers, but people enjoying their evening.
Back to the prison hulk at Woolwich. Rob, please narrate a scene in which we see the convicts at leisure. How do they entertain themselves? How do they maintain their connection to God and society, if at all?
I think we see one particular convict who was once a member of the clergy, has been defrocked and wound up on the wrong side of the law somewhere along the way. But he's attempting to lead some of the men in a prayer service, talking of the redemption that awaits them at the end of their journey, at the end of their long voyage, the new land of opportunity that will be open to them once they've worked out their period of indentured servitude. But he's winning few converts. One or two of the men are joining him, a scared-looking young man. But most of the convicts ignore him. There are some using whatever they can bring to hand to do some kind of makeshift gambling. And of course, the inevitable, the easiest thing to gamble on when you have no dice or cards or anything else is fighting. And the prayer meeting is broken up by two combatants stumbling and shoving this would-be preacher over as various of the other prisoners cheer or jeer for their favorite.
Very good. We're going to fast forward to Bout Club. Brick, the bouncer and lookout who we've met before. Very unusual to allow women into Bout Club, but I think that the worker bee worshiper of Miss Blakely manages to talk him into it. As long as the two of you stay out of sight, it should be okay.
What, you don't want a fight? I'm raring to go for one.
Brick just sort of harumphs and then turns away as if to not look at you as you go in. Of course he remembers, well, no, I was about to say, Sum's not here. Mr. Morgenstern, what do you do to basically cause Brick to turn away as well?
I think I let him see my more manifest form as like dissipate around my more ethereal form. When he's looking at me as I'm escorting these two up, he's like, well, have you been in a fight or whatever? And I'm like, oh, don't you worry about that. I have seen my share of combat. And he can just see like blood pouring down my perfectly white shirt. And I'll see, do you want to see the scar? Do you want to see it?
And Brick will just like turn away, like he wants to remain tough, but he is definitely unnerved. But in order to remain tough and imposing, he has to just literally pretend like this is not happening.
And my shirt will look perfectly white again as we make our entrance.
Indeed. Everyone around, so the fights are already going. They have their ring set up in the middle of the tunnel. They have lots of lanterns and different things lit to illuminate the space as best they can. And you hear men cheering. You hear the sort of heavy smack of fists on flesh. Let's paint the scene, everyone. Nearly every man here bears visible scars and bruises. In your estimation, are they badges of honor or markers of weakness, and why?
I think badges of honor, because the ones bearing them are the ones who have fought, not just the ones who have maybe done the bare minimum of to be allowed to attend. But the ones who have fought regularly, the more fights they've been in, the more beaten up they look.
Quite honestly, if they were that good at fighting, then they wouldn't be hit that much. So I suppose, etc., bravery, whatnot, the ones that have fewer bruises are likely to be the ones that are better. And the ones who are covered in the scars and whatnot should be ashamed of themselves.
Good scars on the forearms and the hands as the skin tears from repeated hits. Those are the good ones. Those are the fighters. Those are badges of honor. They should wear their sleeves rolled up all of the time to show it off. But the ones with black and blue faces and missing teeth, those are shameful inabilities to protect themselves, weakness manifest all over, their failure present for us all to see.
Again, agreeing with the presentation of, if the arms are scarred, then it's much better as badges of honor than having them on the face. But Artemis sort of understands this culture in terms of showing how bloodied they are. One caveat is that depending on how deep the scars go, how practiced they seem in terms of, did they just do one bout? I mean, it's very obvious when you see the wounds on their arms, their scarring and their bruising, because then they've been in many fights for Bout Club and proving their worth for this.
Ms. Everly Gray, what are you doing?
She's watching the fights. She's also paying attention to the MC, I guess.
That would be Colin Jester Yardley.
In between the fights, she's making her way to Yardley. And not being seen, she's behind him, but she'll whisper behind him in his ear. So, what does one have to do to get into a bout?
And he turns, big smile on his face, covered in blood. And he says, well, being a man is a good start.
Are you worried about being, well, shown up?
And he kind of leans back and he's like, well, I have to confess it would be something of a novelty to have a woman at
It
Bout
would
Club.
be.
Tell me, convince me, why should I give you a spot on the card?
She immediately punches him in the face.
Night move with vitality. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
Like he's just going to toss it off like it's no big deal, and then he's going to have her tossed out, basically, by a bunch of the guys.
It's worse than that. It's going to be utterly humiliating.
True. Gotcha.
Roll with vitality. See how it goes.
All right.
Curious about your conditions, too. Anything is relevant. I don't think you even have any. You don't have any. So, yeah.
That would be an 8.
All right, we'll come back to that. Miss Blakely, what are you doing?
I'm gonna go find my little worker bee.
You can. He's there. And he's trying to like maintain his composure in front of you and not lose his shit in front of all the other men, you know.
You, worker, still doesn't know his name.
Says, yes, ma'am.
Is the slugger here tonight?
I believe he's oh, I don't know. I know. And he says, I know where he's going to be.
Fantastic. Please set up a meeting with him for me.
And he's like, we'll come this way. And he takes you a little deeper into the tunnel. What are you doing, Mr. Morgenstern?
I want to try and call the slugger out, invite him to a bout.
What do you do?
Whenever rounds would be over, I'll just give a great booming laugh and like call out to the room, like loudly, like,
yeah, what do you say?
I've heard tell that there's one among you that's never been beaten, that in fact he can strike so hard as to kill a man. I want to fight this one, whether it be the end of me or not. Where is he? Show me the man.
This is the night move with presence. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
That he won't come out.
I'm going to say it's worse than that. You're going to have to fight someone else to prove yourself in Bout Club.
Well, that would be disappointing.
Roll with presence.
Seven.
We'll come back to that. Mr. Graves, go ahead and roll your Beacon in the Night.
You're muted, Rob.
Okay. I'm just reading the rules here.
Sensitivity with 2.
Oh, sensitivity, not, yeah. Okay, I get it. That's a 9.
On a hit, you are immediately confronted by a threat or a personified danger related to the threat. You can ask 2 questions from the list below. I will tell you that you, however, because it's not a 10 plus, they won't go away immediately. I think you are summoning, I don't think it's like the slugger in reality. It is a manifestation of the slugger, right? They step out of the shadows and they are tall, massive, very wide at the shoulder, so tall there's like it's like a head over you, looks down at you, covered in tattoos, and presenting to you quite naked. And I think he's talking to you and Miss Blakely at the same time. He's saying, "What do you want from me?" And there we shall cut to the prison hulk at Woolwich. David, narrate a scene in which we see a convict being punished by a ship's officer. What did the convict do? How is the punishment being carried out?
They bring everybody up on deck and they announce the crime. An officer announces the crime. Mr. Gentry has violated our first rule. We all know the first rule, don't we, gentlemen? Addressing all of the prisoners. Don't we, gentlemen? And they all respect the officers. That's right. He failed to respect the officers. In fact, he spit upon my boot. What do we do when somebody breaks the first rule, gentlemen? Oh, lashings. That's right, gentlemen. Strip him. And they pull his shirt down. Bind him. They tie him to the mast. Flog him. And somebody comes with a whip and they strike him 3 times. In the first hit, we see it's silent. If this is the film, it's silent. We see him scream. And the one who's pulling back lashes out. The second time, instead of seeing the one who is lashing, we see Blakely lashing. And we see Graves crying out. And the third time, we see, I think, the one who would be striking again, but it's just super cutting between all of these images of men fighting and striking each other with fists. And then I think we're back into our night scene.
Ms. Everly Gray, Yardley says, rubbing his jaw, he says, "All right, very well. Truth be told, we have a fighter who's been trying to get in the ring for some time, but we're all too scared to let him get hurt because he's a person of importance. And so maybe you could fight him." And he says, "Detective Inspector." And D.I. Pettigrew comes up. He's got no shirt on. And he comes up and he's like, "Ah, Yardley, is tonight the night? Tonight the night I shall go mano a mano with one of the other men." And Yardley says, "Sort of, yes, sort of." And Pettigrew sees you and he says, "Artemis Everly Gray, What are you doing here?
Oh, I'm fighting. Tonight. D.I.
Says, yes, well, it wouldn't be honorable to lay hands on a woman, I'm afraid, Miss Evelyn Gray.
You know my family's reputation, D.I. Pettigrew. I think we can handle ourselves quite well.
And he says, yes, well, and...
If there's a complication, I want to bump it up to
No, I think
10
the complication
plus.
is just the fact that it's D.I. Pettigrew.
I mean, I want to fight him, but I want to use a Mask of the Future. I want to finally get that thing kicked in, if I can.
Oh,
I'm okay.
I mean,
No,
well, the only complication was just that it's D.I. Pettigrew. So
no, I mean, I still want to fight him,
well,
but I
you
want to,
fight
I
him,
want to,
yeah,
I want to
yeah.
mark Cosmic Passage.
We'll see how it goes.
Okay.
Right around this time is when Cornelius is calling out for the Slugger, right? And do I understand correctly from the chat, David, that you were incorrect, that your result was actually a 10?
Yes, I got my composure and sensitivity scores mixed up, and I got a 10.
Very good. So then the Slugger, it will happen. I think in the fiction, there's just like no immediate response. Like people are just kind of like hubbing, like, who is this guy? Like, and they're all just kind of like, well, if the Slugger fights him, then that means the rest of us will not have to. So that's good, right? You know, they're kind of like looking at it as an opportunity to not get laid out or killed tonight, while also being able to maintain their masculinity and their pride by not having to refuse a fight with the Slugger. But in the meantime, it's D.I. Pettigrew. Yardley says, we have a bit of a novelty this evening, gentlemen. A servant of the crown. And this lovely young woman with a vicious right hook. They're going to be our first exhibition match for tonight's bout club. And there's a bit of like, you know, I think most of the men are kind of excited there is a novelty to it, but also you get the sense that they all kind of secretly want to see D.I. Pettigrew get his ass kicked, right? I think that would be very enjoyable for them. And D.I. Pettigrew, he says, Madam, as he gets in the ring, you should know that when I strike, I shall strike true. And I shall be doing it not because I particularly enjoy the idea of striking a woman, but because it is important that people see the strength of the crown and her servants. I shall, in fact, knock you out for Britain. And he
just lands a blow. She doesn't finish.
So it just starts, yeah.
She does not wait.
Let's have the night move with vitality. What do you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
Let's go.
He did this little circling thing with his fists, right?
Yeah. Night move. She's actually afraid that, well, I mean, there's already blood spilled around, but this particular sense, if any of his blood gets spilled or she manages to get something to leak, that's going to awaken something he's not going to want to see. So.
And I have to say how it's worse than that. I think it'll be very bloody and it'll actually end Bout Club for tonight. So.
Yeah. So.
Let's have the roll.
Okay, that is a 9.
A 9. We shall come back to that. I think it's just going to be that D.I. Pettigrew puts up a surprisingly good fight.
It's fine.
So let's go. Miss Blakely, you're standing before the Slugger. It's as I've described him, except there are a bunch of I think there are a bunch of men wearing like those wicker beekeeper masks, you know? And they are like physically anointing his body with the honey and with, you know, it's very ritualistic. It's very, very like erotic as they do this. And he's looking at you and he says, which he speaks at the same time to Graves. Why do you seek me?
I'm looking for the Slugger, I believe he's known as.
What do you say, Miss Blakely?
Well, you are quite the specimen, aren't you?
And he just smiles and says, they call me the Shoreditch Slugger.
Then you are the man I seek.
And why do you seek me?
Curiosity drives me.
You seem to have substantially more prowess than other men in this area.
And Miss Blakely, make up information move with presence. Let's just see what your disposition is here with this conversation.
It's my presence at these days. Oh, my presence is my good one. That would be an 8.
He says to you, Miss Blakely, yes, I do. That is because I fight. I fight for the honor of a woman I love. That's your clue. Mr. Graves, he's not quite responding the same way to you. What do you say to him, Mr. Graves?
Curiosity drives me to seek you out. Specifically, I have to ask you, what is it you want from Doubt Club?
He says, I have something in my mind that I cannot cleanse, a thought that I cannot get rid of. The fights help me forget. That's the answer to your first question and a clue.
As odd as it may seem, I can relate to that.
What'd you say?
As odd as it may seem, I can relate to that. And how can I get you to lose?
And he interesting. I think his answer is also what he says to Miss Blakely. At this point, he says, would you be willing to anoint my body? one of the masked men hands you a pot of some kind of fluid, Miss Blakely. Mr. Graves, I think he wants a different kind of anointment from you.
Blakely smiles her most charming smile, holds up the little jar and says, "Shall we anoint each other?"
And he makes no response to you. But Graves, what do you say?
What type of anointment do you have in mind?
And he steps close to you and he puts his hand at the back of your neck as if to pull you into an embrace. He does the same to you, Miss Blakely.
I think Grace, even though this puts him off balance because of his, crutches, but he doesn't resist.
Blakely just smiles even bigger.
Indeed. In the last phase, we shall have the two fights, the conclusion with D.I. Pettigrew and the fight between Cornelius and Slugger. Let us go to the prison hulk at Woolwich. Amanda, please narrate a scene in which we see a convict finding comfort and companionship within the bulkheads of captivity.
It's late at night. The waves are splashing against the sides of the ship. It's so dark, you can barely even see them. You just kind of see the white curls as they hit the ship. There's no moon out, it's the new moon. And there's no cloud coverage in the sky. It's just darkness and stars. And the ship is quiet tonight. It stinks. The sound of things moving around as it rocks in the waves, but it's quiet for the ship. In one of the cells, there's two men who share a bunk, top bunk and a bottom bunk. There's more men in the same cell. They're horrendously crowded, these cells. But the man in the top bunk, quietly, trying not to wake up the other people in the cell, climbs out to the top bunk and climbs into the bottom bunk to be with the man there. And it's not really even like an attraction thing, even. It's a desperation to be close to somebody else, to touch skin on skin, to feel something that's not horror or despair. And the men lay together afterwards, listening to the snores of the other people around. And for a moment, just a moment, they don't feel so alone.
Artemis Everly Gray, you're going to have a condition based off the fact that D.I. Pettigrew will give you a nasty shiner.
Can I bump up my roll?
You can, yeah.
I want to mark Cosmic Passage at this point, so I'm bumping up my roll.
The fight is, you dispatch him with ease. Describe it, please.
So she just went in with the first punch. She didn't care. She didn't want to hear his badinage. So she just follows it through with more punches, and she kind of concentrates on this oily sheen of his sweat that's surrounding him and the stink of desperation. She knows he would prefer to fight somebody else, a man. And she is concentrating on that, almost using this sweat that's glistening on his brow, on his arms, and his body overall to lead her blows. One slides from his face, goes to his shoulder. One slides from his arm right into his neck. And she pretty much gives him just as good, if not better, than he gives her. She's used to this. This is morning training for her, and she's letting him know exactly what she knows. And she rounds him off when he's standing there, shoulders drooped, head sweating, dripping. Let me touch you in a way that you probably have not been touched before. She lays one out on his jaw, knocking him out.
Miss Blakely and Mr. Graves, you have both sort of had a psychic sexual encounter with Shoreditch Slugger. How does it make you feel?
Accomplished. Blakely, after the fact, puts herself back together. And you see her walking out of the back area where she had walked in to meet the slugger. And in her hand, in one of her pockets, she pulls out the little jar with a little bit of the oil left over, looks in it, checks to see how much is in there, puts the jar lid back on, sticks it back in her pocket, and goes out to watch the rest of the fight.
Indeed, indeed. Mr. Graves, how do you feel?
I don't think Graves feels much of anything. He has a small sense of satisfaction that he's been able to use the slugger, but he doesn't feel much apart from, this is a distraction. It quiets some of the storm in his head. And that's always welcome, but beyond that, it's something you will forget as easily as that,
Mr. Morgenstern, you are being pushed into the ring as D.I. Pettigrew is being dragged out. The slugger begins coming down the tunnel, approaching the ring, and everyone gets a little quiet, right? He's there, he's got shorts on now, but he doesn't wear shoes. And you see him, his body, massive, rippling with muscle, covered in tattoos. And he steps into the ring and he eyes you and says, "Friend, you should know I don't go easy on my opponents."
I'd expect nothing less.
And right at that moment, as everyone's getting kind of excited about the fight, a man smelling of cheap liquor, his eyes bloodshot, he jumps into the ring and says, "You killed my brother! You killed my brother! And I'm going to have my revenge!" And he's like ready to fight the slugger. And the slugger just sort of like, I don't think he cares too much in particular who he's going to fight. But what are you doing, Mr. Morgenstern?
This guy's going to ruin my moment.
He's there. His brother was killed by the slugger and he is ready for his revenge. He's barely standing. He's so drunk. And everyone's just like, there's a lot of like commotion and like, oh, hubbub, hubbub, hubbub.
If he's this drunk, I'll just push him out of the ring and let people carry him off. Let him fight when he's sober. Tonight's my night. I've been waiting a long time.
The slugger looks at you and he says, he kind of like does that neck cracking thing, and then raises his fists, ready for the fight. And Yardley will say, he'll, how does he announce you? What does he call you?
Oh, I think it's just Mr. Morgenstern. It's good.
Very good. Versus the Shoreditch Slugger. Gentlemen, have a good fight. Mr. Morgenstern, it was very nice knowing you. And does whatever they do. They ring the bell and the fight begins. How's this going?
My plan is to let the Shoreditch Slugger beat me to death.
Oh, good.
And I just want to investigate and goad him and
good.
Interrogate his psychology with my with just whatever I'm saying to him.
Yeah.
So I hope I can get an information move out of it.
I like it. Move vitality.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Let's see how that goes. 9. That's probably perfect.
Yeah.
If I lose my physical form, I have to take a condition.
Yeah,
anyways.
I think we'll just lean into that, I think. I will say that as the fight is going on, you're going to get a really good look at, well, let me take a look at the clues you have already, make sure I'm not duplicating something. Oh, the tattoos. You get a good look at the tattoos. And you will notice that on various points of his body, ritually significant points on his body, there are Roman numerals. He dispatches you very quickly. He doesn't even throw a single punch until he has to. And once he does, the punch caves your chest in and your lungs burst out of your mouth. And you just fall down, collapse, dead. And everyone's like, it's like a moment of quiet.
Yeah. I want to have the scene a little bit before that happens. Is that good?
Okay,
Does that sound
fine.
good?
Yeah,
but that's how it will conclude.
That's how we'll conclude.
Oh, come on now. Hit me. You know you want to. It's so good being alive, feeling alive. Come on. You can hit me. I want you to show everybody around here what it's like to fail when you try to kill me. And that's when he does it.
Yeah.
And I think he can feel that nobody else possibly could. My heart's not beating when he does it. It was never beating. And it's bloody and messy and they come out of my lungs. But my eyes are just smiling and laughing at him as my body falls backwards onto the ground.
And that will conclude the night phase.
Is that, well, I mean, like, is that like truly physical blood, or is that like ethereal blood? I mean, what is it? When you...
I'm flesh and blood right now, but yeah.
It's like black blood that wasn't actually pumping around his body. It's just in there.
It's just in there.
Like gelatin.
Yeah. I want to do something at the end of this, but
You want to eat it, don't you?
no. I mean, the reason I was asking about the physical blood is because if I have the chance to do my custom move, I will. If I don't, then I want to challenge the slugger for the next night.
What's the custom move? Remind me.
Blood calls to blood.
Oh,
Anytime any
yes.
blood is spilled in the scene, whether mine or the opponent, I can roll with vitality to see if I can use it.
Oh, very good. Roll. See how it goes.
That would be a 10.
On a 10 plus, the Duke of Blood can manipulate the blood spilled, increasing its volume and strength, turning it into a weapon or defense at will. Any further moves are rolled with vitality until the phase ends. I'll let it carry over to the next night phase. But how do you use the blood right now?
So when she sees Morgenstern go down, she's actually like at the edge of arena or whatever, and she will actually feel the blood splatter of his heart. And then as she's doing that, it's like time slows, and then the Duke of Blood starts to wake up. And then the blood, nobody else notices, but she does. She notices the blood drop by drop start to helix, and then form into almost like an imperceptible cloud that goes right back up into the Shoreditch Slugger's nose. He breathes it in, and then she turns it into shards as sharp as bone into his brain.
Wait, where are these shards going?
They're going into, well, I mean, he just fought the Shoreditch Slugger, right?
Oh,
so
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
like, it's going into through his nose and into his brain.
Into the body of Morgenstern.
No, into the Shoreditch Slugger.
Oh.
She's changing it into like little weapons.
Oh, I see.
Like-
Well, you can't beat him yet because
Okay.
but
Okay.
you can have the shards of blood at hand though.
Yeah.
And that will end the night phase. Dawn. Dawn, questions. You did answer a question, so everyone will get credit for that one. Mr. Graves, did you experience an echo in the night?
I think so.
did, yeah.
There was a fight aboard the
Aboard the
Grin
ship,
and Hulk
yeah.
echoing.
Did you make love to a human in order to forget the darkness? Kind of.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of cases I could potentially make there.
Yeah, I
don't know
think you probably can, yeah.
how.
Did you perform a ritual? I would say yes. I think you had a good...
No. Oh,
Oh,
I guess.
I consider...
Yeah, I guess that counts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Very good, very good. Mr. Morgenstern, I know you had an echo in the night. Did you give someone a fright?
I think so.
Yeah, in the
I
beginning.
gave Miss
Yeah.
Everly Gray a fright, and I gave Brick a bit of a fright.
Oh, you gave Brick a fright
I-
too, yeah.
I might have even given the Shoreditch Slugger a little bit of a fright.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
don't know.
Did you counsel the living to appreciate being alive?
I was trying to in my fight with him there.
Is that counseling or goading?
Yeah, it felt more like goading to me. If you had taken the question that's like revel in or luxuriate in the tactile, that would have been really perfect for that. That's what I thought you were doing, was luxuriating the tactile. Miss Everly Gray, did you experience an echo in the night? I feel like you did.
Yeah, I was mentioning like it's like the oily sheen, like just like in the water
Right.
of the
Yeah,
prison
like
hulk.
that.
Yeah.
Did you revel in the thrill of the hunt? I would say yes, in a sort of way. Did you taste someone or something else's blood, sweat, or other bodily fluids?
Didn't. I mean,
Not so much
but-
taste, no.
No.
I do want to note, however, that you get an X for your hunt based off the last scene. Let's go to Mark New Dawn questions if you wish. Mr. Morgenstern, you are, of course, returned to Hargrave House against, well, voluntarily, I suppose, in the sense, but and the manifestation ends. Okay, great, love all that. I don't think we have any Janus Mask prompts to do we? I don't think we do. Okay, well, in that case, we've got 10 minutes for Stars and Wishes. Take it away.
Stars for Morgenstern. That's a really fun ghostly character. I really like this. Not really a juxtaposition, but like this difference between how he is when he is spooking up the mirrors versus how he is when he's like a physical manifestation. That sort of really enjoying himself as a physical person came through really good. And I thought that was just a lot of fun. I'm excited to see what sort of shenanigans happen. I like that Blakely and Morgenstern kind of knew each other because that gave me a chance to be like, why is everyone coming back to life? So thanks for letting me run with that. Stars for all the stuff with the slugger. I find that the slugger is such an interesting threat. It's just a lot of fun to play. And the way, Jason, that you are running this threat and playing this slugger is sort of, I don't know, it kind of makes me feel like I'm watching an ancient Greek myth of some kind, and I really like that sort of classic strong man thing that's happening. I think it's really cool. Of course, I always love sniping with Artemis. It's going to be sad when Mads has to go on break and I won't have anyone to snipe at, but I guess Blakely won't be doing that, so it's not a big deal, but still sad. And of course, Rob, for going along with all of the silly ideas that I have, and getting flogged. It's hard to find a good floggy these days.
I think, yeah, Graves is the perfect subject or object, perhaps. Yeah, I really enjoyed. Like, I think we were all on the edge of our seats waiting to see what David was going to pick next, and I've looked at very briefly at the Unquiet playbook and was like, that's how will this person kind of integrate into the phases, but now I understand more, and it's this has got a lot of exciting potential. Very happy to see Artemis get into the ring. That was good, and yeah, I enjoyed exploring kind of the Graves asking Blakely about how long she's walked around the earth, exploring her background a little bit. And I really enjoyed the kind of desperation you were putting into that initial moment before, when she came looking for Graves. And this first time we've seen Miss Blakely seem flustered, and there's an interesting trajectory there that looking forward to where it ends up.
I really enjoyed dressed down Brathwaite. I thought that was a fun scene. Everyday Brathwaite, just doing some hard work there in her new quarters.
Some light remodeling. That's it.
Yeah, that was wonderful. That was a great scene. I thought it was really cool that Artemis and Morgenstern got to have a vulnerable scene. I think that might be an important part of the Unquiet, their ability to assist in investigations during the day is by creating clues during vulnerable scenes. So I was delighted that even though you had no conditions, you were like, let's do one, because that's like, yep, we need to, like, it fit the narrative so neatly, that, and it still benefited mechanically us by finding a clue, but it was a great narrative opportunity for Artemis and for Morgenstern. I really enjoyed that Blakely got to know, or reveal that she already knew Morgenstern. So that's going to be fun to play with, possibly in some mask scenes in the future. And I think my wish is to see how Graves and Morgenstern interact with one another, especially if Graves is still like bedridden, and probably has mirrors about.
In St. Petersburg mirrors right there in Graves's room, right?
Yeah. I was actually half anticipating we'd get to that today, but that's going to be an interesting interaction. Yeah.
Star, I really enjoyed. I did enjoy Cornelius's introduction into the game. I thought that was really, really good. I also like the sort of like dual versions of Mr. Morgenstern. Those were really quite fun. I love this incursion. What the fuck? This threat. I like this threat a lot. I knew when I bought it, I knew why I liked it then, but like playing it is really, really fun. The author, Sarah Bolling, did a really, really wonderful job with like the themes of this threat, which is like this idea of like toxic masculinity, right? But it's like kind of manifest in this setting and in these characters and the different events that are going on. I like that the venue changes every night. I like the there's just so much good stuff in the Shoreditch Slugger, and I think what makes it so great is the threat itself is really not much of a threat. Like there's no like these are people willingly getting in the ring with the Shoreditch Slugger. There's no like greater implication for the city of London, and yet the threat really hums from a sort of like world building and theme standpoint. I really love it. I don't know if Sarah watches these videos, but if you are, fabulous job on the threat. It's really good. I loved the scene between Cornelius and Everly Grey. It was really lovely. I also enjoyed the scene with Theodora and Everly Grey. That was really fun too. I liked doing it was a little tricky from a role-playing standpoint, but I really enjoyed the sort of like slugger in two places at once thing with Blakely and Graves. That was super fun to do. And I also kind of like this. This is basically how it's written in the threat too, but I do like this version of the Shoreditch Slugger, like this almost like kind of totemic, like demigod like kind of thing going on, which I think is really intriguing.
That was definitely my read of it too. It's perfect. Its representation is perfect.
Yeah, I think it's going really well. My wish, I definitely want to see more of like Cornelius in the day and how the gameplay goes with that. I think that's going to be really interesting to see. I'm really curious to see how you all end up resolving the Shoreditch Slugger threat, if you do. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I obviously would like to see more of Theodora and Blakely. I feel like that's reaching a boiling point of some sort. Theodora's making her intentions very clear. And so we'll see how that all plays out. But yeah.
I mean, I really love the sensuality that kind of ran through today's episode. I mean, it was really cool to just like, it's a lot of physicality. I mean, whether they were
it was very erotic, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that like that's an interesting spin on it. I mean, like even from the start in the day phase when Blakely was flogging Graves. I mean, like there's still like some sense of sensuality there and eroticism. So I mean, it was carrying all the way through, I think. And I really love the fact that I got to beat up D.I. Pettigrew. I'm so glad. If it wasn't Graves, it was gonna be me. And I really enjoy.
He is the most punchable character in the setting.
He
let's
is.
face it.
He totally is. Absolutely. So I mean, like that was a joy. That was a total star, like on my part.
That was total fan service there, letting
Yes,
somebody punch D.I. Pettigrew.
Absolutely. And and I really have a star for our scene, Artemis and Cornelius together in the beginning. I mean, he's seeing a side of her that she doesn't show to most people or anyone. And, we'll see if like he kind of goes along with it or he's just kind of along for the ride. We'll see. And Brathwaite, that was great. Thank you very much, Jason, for going along with that, because I was just curious like whether she really did know where Blakely's cathedral was. And, if that ends up getting resolved at some point, doesn't have to be before I have to go on break. I mean, I would love to see that happen. Artemis going into Blakely's cathedral and seeing if it sparks anything. So, I mean, that's a wish for me. And then the back to Star, the Slugger and Blakely and Graves. What a menage a trois! I mean, damn, that was awesome. I mean, Jesus, that was great. So, very much bursting stars for that. And yeah, I mean, wish to see what happens next.
Fantastic. Are there any more stars and wishes?
Some wishes. I'm very excited to see more of our unquiet friend. I think it's going to be really interesting. dynamic to add to Hargrave House. I'm ecstatic to see more of what happens with Theodore Brathwaite and with Julius, who is also back. So we'll see what sort of chaos will reign with that. And then, of course, Admiral Flagg is still kicking around doing evil things, and I want to see what happens with him. I miss him.
Any other stars or wishes? In that case, a stinger. We are at Chimera, the mansion of Admiral Flagg. The crew of Chimera are on their hands and knees in a manner of worship as a powerful figure walks among them. The figure is wearing a lion's head as a mask. The figure is walking with goat hooves and a live snake wrapped around his tattoo-covered body. And the figure gets to the end and Admiral Flagg approaches and removes the lion mask. And he looks up into the eyes of the slugger and he says, "You see, join me and I will make you a god. That is my offer." And you have until the next night phase to defeat the slugger, or they will accept that offer. Thank you all so much. See you next week.